always forget stuff. Hey everybody, this is Heather with templeboundparadox, and today I'm coming at you with my latest review of one of the books from my TBR list. And the book that I started with is Diary of Two Mad Black Mormons by Tamu Smith and Zandra Vrains. And as I mentioned in the previous video, I had started this book, but it had to get away from it. And so I'd made it about 50 pages into this book by the time I came back to it as part of this review. And I forgot how much I was really enjoying what it is that they've achieved here with this book. The book it's really a quick read, and I'm not too sure if that's just because the way it's laid out, or it's probably more because they're just so engaging and they're so funny. I love the stories that they've chosen to share in here. It's about 214 pages long. The way that they've chosen to break everything down, it goes in 7 chapters. It reads just like the way that they speak. So even though I've never been able to actually meet either one of them or go to one of their events or hear them speak personally, there really is no difference between the way that they speak and the way that they write. That's not an easy thing to do as a writer. In terms of the stories that they choose to share, I thought that the level of intimacy that they allowed the reader to have, just that personal access into some of the tougher stories to talk about, I thought they handled that extremely well. One of them, and I don't remember who, I want to say it might be Zandra, please forgive me if I'm wrong, goes into her journey with forgiveness, specifically with being able to forgive her mother, because her mother was incarcerated, and she talks a lot about what that was like, having a mother who was incarcerated as a teenager. Because I went through that with my father, I know exactly how that feels, and I know exactly what it's like to try to keep other people from finding that out about yourself, because you're afraid of how that changes the way they're going to see you. So I really appreciated everything that she had to share with that. Her talking about her journey with forgiveness. It's something that really resonated with me personally, and I just couldn't get enough of it. By the time I got to the end of those sections, I'm like, no, there has to be more. Because it's when someone goes through something like that, it's really hard. And especially being a Latter-day Saint, this might just be my assumption on my part, but from what I can tell, just from the number of Latter-day Saints that I've met in all the different places that I've lived, it's not easy to find another person that you can talk to about specifically incarceration, or even really just when your family blows up and it doesn't go well. You know, someone, I mean, just look at them. They're adorable, and you know, they look like the amazing, well put together people that you would see at church every Sunday. The same people that you would look at and never assume that they've been through the deep and heavy, but they have been. And by having the courage to talk about that, it gives the rest of us the courage to be willing to acknowledge it. I love just their genuineness and their honesty and their faith. If I had to sum up this book in one word, it would be praise. They praise Jesus from the beginning all the way to the end, and it's something that I feel like Latter-day Saints can really learn from. Just this spirit, this infectious willingness to just not just be grateful for Jesus, but to praise him, to talk about the wonderful things that he's done, not only for other people, but for us personally. And just the unique spirit in which they do that. They show Mormons how to praise. That's such a wonderful, just a wonderful infectiousness that really helps people to understand why they started to believe in the first place. I think it would be just absolutely impossible to read this book and not come away with having your faith strengthened and having that fire kindled within yourself. And one of my other favorite stories, it was one of them, they were talking about their mom, and their mom not having the patience with people who bring doubt and negativity into their home and into their lives, and just how she was willing to take someone and boot them out the door and send them outside if they brought any of that negativity not only to her home but into a conversation about faith. Sometimes we get a little too tolerant of our own doubts and of our own pessimism and of our own negativity, and sometimes the real thing that we need to do is just take that stuff and boot it to the curb. You know, why treat ourselves like we're the receptacles of Satan's garbage? Why should we do that? You know, there's obviously a need for room to talk about the deep and heavy, to talk about the deep trials that we're going through, but just in terms of being critical and in terms of being negative and in terms of, you know, there definitely is a line there. And I really appreciated the way that particular story just really starts to flush that out. It made me think about it in a way that I'd never considered before. How it's okay to be strong, and it's okay to be dedicated, and it's okay to not have doubts. And just the amount of strength that other people can take from you when that's the way that you choose to live your life. It really validates that choice. So there's tons of really good stories in here. Some of the things that I really respect the most about what they've been able to do is to keep it lighthearted, even when they're going through the deep and heavy. So they deal with race, and they deal with incarceration, and they deal with forgiveness, and they deal with, poverty. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people can really relate to and really need to hear more about, because I feel like there's this real tendency to believe that all Mormons are rich and all Mormons have their lives together and all Mormons have these perfect lives and perfect families and nothing ever goes wrong. And just through the sheer number of converts that we have that have come from out in the world and everything, that's not the way things are. And having someone remind us of that, it really changes the way that you think about the people sitting in the pew next to you on Sundays. Or at least I know that that's what I took away from it. And I really want to challenge myself to see people more complexly. And just the way that they were able to present their stories really made me reconsider that and to consider how important that is. So what they did in this book, it wasn't easy to achieve. And I know that as a writer that it's really hard to get into deep subjects and to even bring scriptures into it without it getting dry and boring. And this book never gets dry and boring. So that was something also that I was just really trying to learn from them. And they're masterful teachers at it. You could just see the joy and the jubilation in every word. I felt like I was calling them up on the phone and asking them to come over and have a conversation with me. And so this book, I can't say enough good things about this book. The retail price on it is $21.99. You can get it on Amazon. I saw that our local Deseret Book here in Boise still had copies of it. Some of the copies at the Boise store were actually signed. So when you go to pick one up, always take a peek in the front because they do sign copies of their books. Definitely worth a read. It's worth a gift. So the ideal people that I would gift this for, since the holidays are coming up, are young women. I would easily give this as a gift to any of the young women in my class, probably older than about age 12. So I teach the beehives, and I can imagine that there would be some beehives that would read this and think it's really funny, and then there would be some of them where it would go over their head. It's the maturity of the themes that they're talking about. When you're talking about incarceration and stuff like that, it can be something really hard for someone who doesn't have a whole lot of life experience to get their mind around. So just be cognizant of that. It's a great book to have, and then to follow it up with conversations with your kids about race, about how to treat the poor, and about how to relate to people with sensitivity. So it would be that'd be a great family home evening idea. It would be a great way to have a discussion in young women, maybe hand out some sections or a story within the book and then talk about it in class the next Sunday. There's lots of different ways in which this book could be helpful and could be useful. And because it's so faith promoting and it comes from people that most people in the church would readily recognize, I feel like there's ways that they can shape a conversation that would be invaluable to the people who partake in it. I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads, and I think it's definitely worth a purchase. So definitely be sure to check it out because it's worth the read. I have for you today. So please be sure to come back. The next book that I have on my to be read list. Hold on, let me get the book. C is for Caraway. That's good enough for me. Next on my to be read pile is More Than the Tattooed Mormon by Alfox Caraway. And I am really looking forward to reading this, so definitely be sure to come back. So if you want to follow me on Goodreads and follow along with where I am in the book, you can read along with me and be sure to look me up on Goodreads. Be sure to click that like, comment, and subscribe button. Leave a comment. Leave a suggestion of a book you'd like me to review. Thanks so much for stopping by, and we hope to see you again. Bye!